Hello and welcome back, guys. Now, in this video today, we're going to be looking at Rome Total War 2 and how it really set the precedent when it was released, and a standard that many of the new titles haven't reached recently. I'm not saying the new title has been awful in any way. Warhammer Total War 3 has been absolutely fine. It is a good game. I do enjoy playing it. However, I just feel like it does lack many of the features that the predecessor games had, and this goes back from Rome Total War 1 as well as Medieval Total War as well. A lot of them features have been lost, and we're going to be exploring them in this video. The first feature that seems to have went completely out the window with the recent titles is naval combat. The developers really made the most of this in Rome 2, I felt anyways, because the combat really made you feel immersed, as though you were really genuinely fighting a simulation of a really ancient naval battle. And alongside this, especially with this game, you did have the great rivalry of the two superpowers of the time, Rome and Carthage, so that made the naval engagement all the more sweeter when you know the history of the Punic Wars, especially when they had the storied missions that went along with your development throughout the campaign. And the naval combat really was just a thing of beauty as well. I mean, the graphics for the 2013 game were absolutely stunning. The seas looked realistic, the ships were exquisite as well, all the graphical designs that they had was fantastic. It's all really added to the game, and it's really sad to say that many of the new titles just don't have naval combat anymore. Like, it is quite an important thing, I would think, and it really added a different dynamic to the game. And it's one of them things where you don't really know what you've got until it's gone. Once this was removed from the game, it sort of really highlighted what was missing. And I mean, we are missing one of the greatest things as well, which was the land and sea battles you could do. Now, that was an excellent feature that added in that. I mean, it'd been in previous games, but it was really added in that Rome Total War 2. Now, it did force players to think outside the box because of the complete decisive situations you were in. Now, you could organise a land and sea army if you really wanted to, or you could play with friends and have two separate battles going on simultaneously in the same game, because you had the naval battle and the land battle, and depending on whoever won these engagements, it would really decide the outcome of the actual battle. So this was a fantastic feature that the game had. Now that just no longer is there, and it's something that really should be brought back, and I feel like everyone would be much happier with that feature being brought back. Even if it is in another Warhammer game, it's just, or maybe even a Shogun 3 or something like that. It's just something that really needs to be in the game. Sadly, it has been put on the back burner by Creative Assembly, and the last real improvement I personally seen in it was in Attila Total War, which had the different ship designs as well as different weaponry you could use. But other than that, it just sort of just disappeared after that, unfortunately. I would love to see its return. Now, I did like ram raiding ships. It was really fun, as well as boarding the ships, which was really good because you had like land battles technically on the sea, especially with the legionaries jumping overboard and fighting, and you could watch it all play out in the middle of the ocean or just off the coast, whatever battle you were playing in. I thought that was really good. I think many of you would probably think it was really good and brings back many memories of playing them campaigns. But yeah, we are missing out quite a lot there. The next thing on the list is siege battles. Now, where to start with that? Siege has become almost comical with the range of weaponry that's in recent Total Warhammer titles. Now, to be honest, it kind of just saps all the fun out of it for me. I would much rather be battering the walls with Roman ballistas or onagers and assaulting the gates with the battering rams, or even trying to get over the walls with the legionaries on the ladders. Now, that would completely suit me down to the ground, but I'm not exactly enticed by the new weaponry, considering I can just sit from a distance with cannons the size of the Empire State Building, just blowing enemies to smithereens and smashing walls down with giants. Now, it is great when you first play it. There's quite a bit of excitement there, but the novelty wears off pretty quickly, especially when you do get quite a lot of bonuses on these siege weapons. I have seen a lot of videos on YouTube as well which have sort of highlighted how ridiculously overpowered these weapons can be if you really add the right bonuses. Now, I do think that it does need to return to the old historical style, or something needs to be done about the range of weaponry, because although Warhammer is a game that has many mythical creatures as well as the sort of like modern weaponry that's added into it, like bombards and stuff. They're not really like the bombards from medieval Total War or even the cannons from Shogun 2. The new siege units are just basically for fun, just to blow things apart and have a bit of fun there. But if you really want to have a serious battle, I think it's really hard for myself to get involved. I don't know about anybody else, but that is my personal opinion on the matter. Just felt like the predecessor games, like Attila, Rome 2, Rome 1, even Medieval 2, they really got you into the nitty-gritty of a siege battle, and it made you feel really strategic, how tactical, how you had to decide what points to attack, what walls to weaken, and try to trick enemies into thinking where you're going to attack and stuff like that. It was a lot harder, I think, the siege battles in these games, but that's just one of them things, isn't it? It just feels easier, probably because of the modern weaponry, I suppose. Moving on to the next feature. This one was the intricately detailed units, campaign map, and the cutscenes. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I thought at the time these cutscenes were phenomenal. I mean, in Rome Total War 2, it was mostly storied cutscenes that were based around certain events. But in the predecessor games like Rome Total War 1 and Medieval 2, you had the little cutscenes for the agents, and they were absolutely fantastic. Sneaking into the cities through little carts, or trying to sneak in through the door, and it would have like little comical areas which were hilarious when you used to play it. It brings back so many memories, and I just enjoyed it so much. I imagine that was the same for everybody else, but yeah, they were great. And another thing was the intricately detailed units that I've already mentioned. The armour, clothing, weaponry and architecture, that was so well done, it was actually a work of art. The Roman legionary armour was exactly as it was imagined, with the segmentata plates, and even with the Greeks, you had the Greek pikemen and the hoplites, which were intricately dressed in golden embossed armour, with the thorax armour, which was laminata, I think it was called. But yeah, they had that. Everything was done as it was historically described in the sources, because a lot of research obviously went in these games, but I feel like the more modern games have went down the more cartoony route, although they are well designed and well graphically made. But yeah, I feel like they have lost quite a bit of that sort of artistic value in the realism of the game. So yeah, there's that as well. Lastly was the historical accuracy. Now, the last game that was based around history was the Three Kingdoms era. Now, that one was based on a historical event in China. However, not really much is known around that period, and a lot of it is sort of mythological, so we don't really know if any of it actually happened in the way that it happened, but we do have an idea of how events played out. Now, I think that the embellishments that went into that one sort of made it a bit too unrealistic, and although Three Kingdoms was a very good game, it sort of lacked a few features that we've already previously mentioned, as well as like sort of naval combat in a way. With Rome 2 though, and the start date, it's in the perfect date. You had the Punic Wars right at the start, so you know exactly what's happening. We have a lot more sources from that period, so the game was more well researched and more well done, and we have a better understanding of the units at the time, as well as the tactics and the fighting styles of many of the other tribes and antiquity states. So that is why I feel like Rome 2 was better than Three Kingdoms, and so was like Shogun and stuff like that, because there was a lot more history that we know about, and it was more well documented. But yeah, I feel like Creative Assembly should roll it back a bit into more well-known history, different time periods and stuff like that. So could do anything in terms of history, because there's so much to choose from. But when they picked that one, I think it was really just a shot in the dark for that one. I think with Rome, it was a great setting in the history. It was just on the cusp of the First Punic War, and the tech tree was to die for, to be honest. It was a fantastic tech tree that you could just basically research new buildings, you could research new little bonuses you could have. They weren't exactly overpowered. You could get little things for the generals which made them overpowered, but it wasn't, on the whole, it was very well balanced, and it wasn't really that exploitable, unless you did some fiddling around yourself. And Creative Assembly were quite on top of the patches with that as well. So you did have the logistics and movement bonuses, which was quite nice as well. However, Rome 2 did lack the feature that a lot of the predecessor games had, which was the road development for movement speed, hence why it was in the tech tree. So that was one of them things that it didn't have due to moving to the new engine, but it was still a nice little touch that they had. Another bit was the game's start date. If you didn't really fancy the Roman Wars, you could literally just go to the Eastern Mediterranean and just get stuck into the Diadochi Wars, which was the remnants of Alexander's empire. So you had the Seleucids, Macedon, Ptolemaic Egypt, and even if that didn't really tickle your fancy, you had the barbarian factions, which were a load of fun as well. You had people like the Thracians with them flaxmen that were basically going into battle with loincloths, so they had nout on. It was just something that they were absolutely OP for damage, but they could be picked off one by missile units so easily. You also even had, if you didn't really fancy that, you even had the steppe tribes, which were pretty cool with all the horseman units. But yeah, there's a lot of things I would like to see back into the games that they produce, Creative Assembly, but there's certain features that are missing, and I feel like they should really bring them back. I do enjoy Warhammer and I do enjoy the Three Kingdoms, but for me it just doesn't have the same appeal or feelings that the older titles had. The older titles probably is nostalgia, but they do bring back a lot of memories, and it was really immersed, and the gameplay was just fantastic as well. I hope you don't mind me whinging on a bit, but that was my little gripes about the features that should really be in the games that have been lost throughout the time, and it just seems to be that they're making cheaper games as the time goes on, and it's more DLC based now than it ever has been. So yeah, but if you did like the video, please leave a like and a subscribe. And if you either disagree or agree with what I've said, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. And thank you for watching, I really appreciate it.